Hello, this is Pastor Rick, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday Forum on this Sunday, July the 14th, the second Sunday in our sermon series on freedom, and our topic is freedom to love and serve the neighbor. As you know, that's at the heart of our faith, to love God, to love neighbor, but it's not always so easy. So let me start out with a joke. Every day a woman stood on her porch and she shouted, "Praise the Lord!" And every day her atheist neighbor next door yelled back, "There is no Lord." One day she prayed again out loud, "Lord, I'm hungry, please send some groceries." The next morning she found a big bag of groceries on her doorstep. She said, "Praise the Lord!" "I told you there is no Lord," her neighbor replied. "I bought those groceries for you." "Praise the Lord," she said once again. "He not only brought me groceries, he made the devil pay for them." Okay, the more you think about that joke, the more complex it gets. Who was the good neighbor? Who was the bad neighbor? And that's all part of the issue we'll be wrestling with this week. If loving the neighbor is the center of our faith, often we have to say, from what do we need to be freed to love the neighbor? There's all sorts of issues, right, with our neighbors. We have self-interest, we have self-focus, we have biases. Sometimes we want to say, "Oh Lord, if you only knew my neighbor, you wouldn't have given me these commandments." It can be rough. And so free from is connected with freedom to. And that's the first insight that we will discuss at the Sunday Forum. From what do we have to be freed so that we can love and serve the neighbor? It's very important. Something is usually holding us back. Think about it. Think about your neighbors. And remember, your family, your spouse, those are your closest neighbors. From what do you need to be freed so that you can serve and love the neighbor? But here's a second insight, and we'll discuss this on the Sunday Forum. It's one of the most famous poems written by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. As you will remember, Bonhoeffer opposed the Nazi regime as a Lutheran theologian and pastor in Germany during World War II. And he struggled, had all these weighty decisions. How do you love the neighbor? What things can you do? What things can you not do? And with all his struggles, this is a poem he wrote, The Stations on the Way to Freedom. There are 4 movements, or 4 little paragraphs in this poem. It's about self-discipline, on the way, action, suffering, and then death. Let me read the poem. And again, I'll give you a copy of this at the Sunday Forum, and we can discuss it together. Stations on the Way to Freedom, Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Self-discipline. If you set out to seek freedom, you must learn before all things mastery over sense and soul, lest your wayward desirings, lest your undisciplined members lead you now this way, now that way. Chaste be your mind and your body, and subject to you and obedient, serving solely to seek their appointed goal and objective. None learns the secret of freedom, save only by way of control. Second part, action. Do and dare what is right, not swayed by the whim of the moment. Bravely take hold of the real, not dallying now with what might be. Not in the flight of ideas, but only in action is freedom. Make up your mind and come out into the tempest of living. God's command is enough, and your faith in Him to sustain you. Then at last, freedom will welcome your spirit amid great rejoicing. Now suffering. See what a transformation. These hands so active and powerful now are tied, and alone and fainting. You see where your work ends, yet you are confident still and gladly commit what is rightful into a stronger hand and say that you are contented. You were free from the moment of bliss. Then you yielded your freedom into the hand of God that He might perfect it in glory. And finally, the fourth part, death. Come now, highest of feasts, on the way to freedom eternal. Death, strike off the fetters. Break down the walls that oppress us, our bedazzled soul and our ephemeral body, that we may see at last the sight which here was not vouchsafed us. Freedom. We sought you long in discipline, action, suffering. Now as we die, we see you and know you at last, face to face. It's one of the most beautiful poems he wrote. Freedom. Freedom from and freedom to love and serve the neighbor. It's the center of our faith, and that's what we'll discuss at the Sunday Forum right after the worship service at 10:15. Join us. Bye-bye now.